Camarades combattants,
Allow me to articulate my words in three phases.
la première phase va concerner
The first phase will concern the stage from which I will
à partir de laquelle je vais vous expliquer
explain to you how we see this world.
nous voyons ce monde. La deuxième phase, nous allons nous consacrer à
The second phase will explain to you why we must continue to fight.
Et après, l'étape la plus importante, ça sera de vous décliner de façon
And the most important stage will be to give you a summary of our vision for the future,
si je peux m'exprimer.
if I may put it this way.
Durant ces 20 et quelques mois passés donc à la tête de l'État, nous avons eu
During these 20-some months, we have met several politicians from all over the world.
venus de toutes parts. Nous avons rencontré
We met hundreds of diplomats from all over the world.
Nous avons rencontré des hommes d'affaires venus
We
de
met businessmen from all over the
Nous
world.
avons été ouverts à tous ces échanges
We have been open to all these exchanges, to all these discussions,
du monde
to be able to learn from the world, to be able to understand the world.
très belle pour que je puisse vous expliquer
And today I think this is a great opportunity for me to explain to you the conclusion we have drawn
avec des hommes politiques
from all these meetings we have had with politicians from all over the world, diplomats from all over the
très
world.
important. La conclusion
It is
que nous
very
avons
important, the
tirée,
conclusion we have
ça doit
drawn,
nous permettre de comprendre le monde.
and it must allow you to understand the world.
Dans nos contrées, nous n'avons pas cette
Because often in our countries, we do not have this perspective of being able to have access to certain people who will teach you many things through their behavior, through their words, and also by telling you how they see us.
Camarades, Dieu a créé le monde avec
Comrades,
il y a
God created the world with all that there is, like happiness, like misfortune, like good, like evil, humans, geniuses, animals, and everything that goes with it.
Mais nous humains avons décidé
But we humans have decided to make the world something else.
chez les impérialistes, ils ont une
The
vision.
imperialists have a vision of the world that I am going to explain to you.
Le monde se résume en un triangle pour eux.
The world is summed up in a triangle for them.
Peut-être que vous ne
You will
comprenez
see
pas.
the triangle in most of their
Le monde se
signs.
résume en un triangle.
Maybe you don't understand, but the world is summed up in a triangle.
Se trouve l'empire du bien.
For them, at the top of the triangle is the empire of good,
C'est la prospérité.
and the empire of good is them.
Tout ce qui est positif.
It is
C'est eux qui ont
prosperity.
droit à tout
It
ce
is
qui est
all
bon
that is
dans ce monde.
positive.
C'est eux qui ont droit à toutes les richesses.
It is them who have the right to all that is happiness in this world.
D'imposer leur vision, leur mode de vie.
It is them who have the right to all the riches.
Ou leur conquête, je dirais. Ils
It is
veulent
up to them to impose their way of seeing the world.
Parce que pour eux, nous sommes des sauvages.
It is up to them to impose their vision, their way of life.
Donc,
This is why during the colonization, or their conquest, I would say, they came to our lands and said that they had discovered our
s'arrogent
lands.
tous les droits. Et pour eux,
Because
le
for
monde doit
them,
marcher.
we are savages. We have nothing like them, in fact.
C'est simple.
So they called us indigenous people. And it is them, the people. They have all the rights. And for them, the world must work as they wish. It is simple.
Les faire comprendre qu'ils sont les meilleurs.
I will take a few examples. Look through their films. They have prepared the spirit of their people to make them understand that they are the best. It is them who must possess everything. You will not say the opposite. In all their films that they propagate, you will always find the bad guys. It is either the Russians or the South Americans or the blacks who play the bad role of drug traffickers, of proxies, of human traffickers. Until a recent past, of course, you will find the Arabs who play the role of terrorists. This is how they perceive the world.
Quand je prends sur le volet économique,
When I look at the economic aspect,
parmi nous n'a pas traité
who among us did not treat the Chinese products as bad products?
comme on aimait l'appeler, de mauvais produits.
But today, I can tell you that we are wrong.
Qu'on a tout tort.
because China has a fairly advanced level of technology, and it is in China that most of these countries come to supply, put their mark on it, and resell us as their property. Look around you. Look at us. Our entrepreneurs who are in the BTP will not say the opposite. All their machines today are Chinese. Those who do transport will not say the opposite. They lied to us because we went around the world in these 20 months to look for companies, to look for factories, and we understood that everything came back there. But through their communication, they led us to hate all Chinese products and to make us understand that what is good came from them, not necessarily from elsewhere. It's simple. Let's go back in time. To better understand what I will say, we need to go back in time. And I hope that some will read who are the Tsars, the Mongol conquests, the Persian, Turkish, and Ottoman empires. Read their history. You will understand why the world is like this. At the base of the triangle, there are two empires. On one side, the empire of evil, according to them, and the empire of slaves on the other side. This is how they see the world. Who do they call the empire of evil? Those whom I have just mentioned. I told you to go back in time. Go and read. You will understand why they are the empire of evil in their eyes. They fight the empire of evil. For them, the empire of evil must disappear. For them, the empire of evil embodies the devil. They communicate and make their people understand this way. This is why after the Second World War, in the 1980s, I would take the case of Russia, where all the strategies were implemented to crush it with President Gorbachev. In the United States, it was President Ronald Reagan who was at the helm. Three main strategies have caught our attention. They went to Saudi Arabia and asked them to lower the price of oil from $35 to $7 to make the Russian economy collapse. At the same time, the second strategy, AEEURs, don't forget something, AEEUR, is the same people who have just left Afghanistan claiming that they were fighting the Taliban. The Taliban were received by President Ronald Reagan at the White House. They were armed by the CIA. The famous Stinger missiles, the Sol-Air, were delivered to the Taliban to fight the Russians. Later, they came to fight them. Try to understand. The third strategy was a bluff. The IDS project, Star Wars. Read it? You will understand why. They led President Gorbachev to create the Palace Project, which crushed Russia. Once Russia collapsed, those who claimed to be from the Empire of Good began to juggle, until this team came along with Vladimir Putin to try to bring Russia back to the surface. The empire of evil, according to them, suffered a lot. Look at Iran today. Look at all the possible sanctions. Look at how they qualify certain peoples. Through communication, they can lead you to hate a people or to love a people. They are very strong in communication, and they go through all possible channels. Look at the ongoing war. They invented everything for their own interest. And finally, the empire of slaves. According to them, it is Africa and certain peoples of South America. In their heads, as I said recently, Africa belongs to them. Our lands belong to them. The riches of Africa are for them. They cannot conceive that Africans can emancipate themselves, get their heads out of the water, and therefore want to keep their heads. And for that, they have put a cliché C in their heads. The African is easy to manipulate. He is only emotion. They will always find an African to fight against his brother. And it has always been like that. Through communication, they have led you to hate your own skin color. In our cultures and in many cultures in Burkina Faso, mourning is symbolized by the color blue. When a woman loses her husband, she wears blue clothes to mourn for a while. It is they who came to tell you that black symbolizes mourning, the devil, mediocrity, all that is bad. And unfortunately, we have swallowed it so much that when we are in mourning, we also wear black. We have to wake up. We have to wake up because this is the cliché that they have in their heads. They are the empire of good. Others are the empire of evil. And we are the empire of slaves. This is how imperialists see the world. You have to understand that. And here I am going to make a big deal at the place of some intellectuals who continue to want to preach for the imperialists. Do they ignore this part of history? I am not inventing anything. It has been declassified. You will find everything I said in the libraries or everywhere on the search engines. Have these intellectuals not read this? Do they not know the history of this world? Maybe it is by dishonesty or a few dollars that leads them to always preach for the imperialists. They have always preached to raise awareness of our people, our popular masses, so that they understand where they come from and how they are seen by the imperialists. Let's take the history of a few wars. You have followed the Iraq War, a big lie that has been invented, supposedly of possession of weapons of mass destruction. Some senators in the United States did everything to get evidence. They did not get it. Remember that several people resigned from the CIA after this war. Evidence has been invented everywhere. Occidental secret services helped them to fabricate evidence. We remember that Nigeria was accused of setting up a false convention to sell uranium to Iraq. It is the same process that they used to say that Nigeria was selling uranium to Iran. They have already seen it. They have pretexted this and have not had evidence. Even the United Nations found no tangible evidence of the presence of weapons of mass destruction. But they had their objective to destroy Iraq. They destroyed Iraq. They created the Islamic State to come and fight it. Understand the game. It only lasted too long. We have to wake up and understand all this so that we become aware of our situation and fight for our future.
Toutes ces guerres ont été inventées, passant par l'Irak.
All these wars have been invented through Iraq, Syria, Libya, and the Middle East for their own benefit, because no one can equal them. This is what we live in the Sahel through the terrorism that they have imposed, because they will always find black people who will get excited and take up arms against their black brothers. This is what we live and never leave this model. This is why they fight against their brothers. I wanted to make this little history so that you understand how imperialism sees our world. It is summarized in this little triangle. In this second phase, I have to explain why we have to fight. A little story.
Lorsque nous avons rencontré
In 2015, in Tombouctou, when we met, I was in charge of the airport platform.
dans les patrouilles, nous avons rencontré des individus qui rôdaient autour.
In the patrol, we met individuals who were walking around. One of these individuals was a Manchurian. I made him understand that it was dangerous to walk around the base because they could be killed.
Il m'a dit qu'il voulait se faire tuer, il voulait mourir.
He told me that he wanted to be killed. He wanted to die. I tried to understand their story.
Mais il cherchait à mourir à cause du terrorisme. Ils nous ont expliqué que lorsque les
Why did the terrorists come to Tombouctou?
le manchot qui m'expliquait ça,
One, the Manchurian who explained this to
les
me,
terroristes se sont pointés à son domicile.
one evening,
On
the
voulait
terrorists came to his
violer
house.
sa femme devant lui. Il s'est opposé.
They wanted to rape his wife in front of him.
Le lendemain, on est venu le pêcher à la maison. La menace
He opposed it. They left.
accusé de vol. On a tranché sa main.
The next day, we came to take him home. We took him to the public square. We accused him of theft. We cut his hand. We beat him. He left home. His 16-year-old son took care of his hand.
Ils ont continué à violer sa femme pendant des jours.
They came back, they raped his wife, and took his son
Ils ont
away.
amené son fils.
They continued to rape his wife for days until the woman committed suicide.
Voilà pourquoi il marche autour le jour que
They took his son away. He never found him again. He preferred to die. This is why he walks around with a gun pointed at him. It will please him.
ils ont été enlevés de chez eux parce qu'ils refusaient que les terroristes touchent à leurs femmes ou à
Others experienced the same fate. They were taken away from their homes because they refused that the terrorists touch their women or daughters.
Après, ils allaient faire leur sale besoin. Beaucoup de familles ont été détruites ainsi.
The next day, we came to take them away. We took them to the public square. We beat them to death. After that, they went to do their dirty business. Many families were destroyed. These are criminals who are armed and who sow desolation in our countries. They do it in the name of no religion. Unfortunately, here in Burkina Faso, some villages have been compromised by these individuals.
Parle en connaissance de cause. En 2022 à côté,
I speak as a cause.
mon unité dans un village parce qu'ils ne voulaient pas que nous restions.
In 2022, I was searched with my unit in a village because they did not want us to stay there because they had a good agreement with the
Plusieurs
terrorists.
autres unités sont témoins.
Those who listen to me know what we are talking about. Several other units are witnesses. Some villages have categorically that the FDS make noise because they have a good relationship with the terrorists.
Avec ces criminels, parce que c'est eux qui décident du jour où le pacte se rompt.
We made them understand that there is no possible alliance with these criminals because they decide to end the pact. When the pact was broken, they came back to the social networks to call for help. We went there. But it is to say that no matter what they come to tell you, no matter the possible flattery, no matter the pact you sign with them, the day they decide to end the pact, they will come to kill and end the pact. There is no possible alliance with the terrorists. There is no possible alliance with these criminals.
Avec ces criminels, ils sont à combattre. Un point, c'est tout. Aujourd'hui, nous
There is no
constatons
possible alliance today. We see a phenomenon, unfortunately, in our cities.
à passer de cour en cour.
Some people like to go from one court to another to make their wives of certain FDS and certain VDP understand that the families of certain people who fell for the country had a peaceful solution with the terrorists.
Solution pacifique avec les terroristes, c'est nous qui avons voulu faire la guerre. Voilà pourquoi tout ça se passe.
We wanted to wage war, and that is why all this is happening.
Voyant tout ce qui se passe, comprenant le monde, peuvent avoir des
How can human beings, seeing all that is happening, understanding the world, have such words?
soit nous les combattons ou ils nous combattent. C'est tout.
Do not be mistaken. Either we fight them or they fight us. That's all.
Les gens se cachent. Ces gens se cachent soi-disant derrière un semblant de
These
dialogue.
people are hiding behind a semblance of dialogue or negotiation.
Ils vont vous ramener à traîner dans la boue. C'est ça l'objectif de
They are going to drag you into the mud. That is the goal of imperialism, that the plague lasts, that it lasts in time, that your states are not structured, and that we continue to take advantage of your riches.
De cour en cour,
The more it lasts, the more it arranges them. And unfortunately, these individuals who go from course to course play the game of the imperialists. If they lie to me, let them stop now. Because they will fight themselves. We have no choice but to fight, and we have opted for combat, and that is where we will be free, that we will be truly independent. To do this, we have taken care of diagnosing the deep problem of Burkina Faso. I admit that the problem is real and deep. Evil is there. We have diagnosed it, and we are discovering the system day by day. Many knots have been undone, but knots remain to be undone, because every day that God does, we discover certain practices. I can understand. For several decades, this system has been installed. It has become like a gene in our DNA. But we have to remove this gene from our DNA and be able to build a new Burkina Faso. That is why in the third phase of my speech, I am going to give guidelines in certain key areas. We will not give any details on our program, if we can put it that way. Because when the program is known in detail, they will anticipate, they will put obstacles in our way and prevent us from reaching our goals. But we can therefore sum up in a few words. Speaking of the field of defense and security, as you can see, we have opted for combat, and for that we have almost doubled the number of troops in our armed forces. We continue to recruit, and I think that recently recruitment has been launched on the side of officers and non-officers, and soon, in a few days, recruitment for at least 10,000 soldiers should be launched. We will continue to strengthen our troops in order to face the fact that wherever you are, despite the recruitment that has been done, there is always a need for soldiers. Everywhere in Burkina Faso, some villages continue to want military presence. So there is a need to continue to recruit and equip. And I can assure you that we are on this launch. Since January 2023, we have been able to launch a program of equipment. It's true, the world is crazy. There is war everywhere. No nation takes its equipment and sells it. We make it for you. What made these equipment last for almost 18 months? But the first one started to come, as you have seen the last time, and the equipment will continue to come. Because we want the level of our army to reach a level never equaled in the sub-region. This equipment program will continue. And it's you, the actors of this program. Because since we fought, I can tell you these so-called friends of Burkina who have been there for a long time, who suck our wealth, even a single cartridge of Kalashnikov we have not received from anyone to make our fight. It's you who pay, and we will continue to work with our people to be able to lead this fight. We have partners who have accepted to sell us equipment and who have even proposed to be able to deliver us strategic equipment and that we can pay in time. We thank them for this gesture. And we also say thank you to the people who understood the meaning of the fight, that we have to fight. If we don't fight, they will come looking for us at home, like in a chicken coop or in a sheepfold. Every morning they will choose who they want to go and execute on the public square to scare others, to go and cut hands or feet on the public square to scare others. This is their tactic. We are going to fight, and we will give ourselves the means to get there. If it happens tomorrow that we are stuck in a certain spear, we will still come to the people and ask for even more sacrifices to be able to reach the goal.
Je vous le disais tantôt.
Because despite your contributions, I told you earlier, some powers have refused to sell us equipment. They have blocked the equipment that we have bought in some countries because they have the license of some components. And these powers exploit minerals in Burkina Faso. I say it here loudly and solemnly. It will stop. We are going to withdraw exploitation permits. We will not allow this. We will not allow this. You cannot exploit our resources and refuse to sell us equipment, to block our equipment. We are not going to accept this. We are going to withdraw our exploitation permits, and we are going to exploit them ourselves. We are going to withdraw our exploitation permits, and we are going to exploit them ourselves. And we are going to overcome this terrorism here in Burkina Faso and even in the EU. During a long period of time, we have spent time keeping an eye on a number of actors, but we have understood that the phenomenon is so profound. Corruption, bad governance in various administrations, lack of ethics persist. Some bodies have been put in place in the context of the fight against corruption, and recently some arrests have been made in the context of denunciations. The last act will be made before the end of this month. It is an organ that will have to sit in all ministries to self-seize certain dysfunctions, acts of corruption, and be able to act. And these organs will be ready, because we have a lot of big workers also in the administration, but they are often put in the shadows, because for a long time, they are the most corrupt, the most dishonest, who have been put in the light. It is they who benefit from all the advantages. And so I tell the workers to pay attention to these individuals who are losing their privileges. Because they will continue to manipulate you, to intoxicate you, and to send you into bad patches. Pay close attention to these individuals who are losing their privileges. Because we will not allow a so-called elite that had been programmed to take up all the rights in our different administrations. The last organ will be put in place before the end of this month, and real work will begin. You will hear a little bit everywhere at the end of this that we do not respect certain texts. We do not respect certain laws. But there are no laws or texts that stand in the struggle when it is for the interest of the country. Let them stand up and say we will go in this direction. We have adopted a line of conduct. We are making a diagnosis, verifying the presence and seeing the needs. It is not excluded that during the year some contests are launched to increase the number of employees in certain places. Of course, there was a wave of contests that were launched, but in all areas they are making the point that if there is a need, we will continue to recruit to be at an acceptable level and to be able to operate the different organs of the country for the happiness of the masses. In the field of diplomacy, we have opted for a common diplomacy in the AES. All decisions regarding partners, whether African or foreign, will be taken unanimously within the AES. But we have also opted for a diplomacy of truth. We do not intend to put ourselves in certain logics, to lie, or to cover reality. Saying that it is diplomacy, it is false. It is not diplomacy. I can tell you that what you see as a superstructure when people come to the audience and come out to speak is only a visible part of the iceberg.
Ce n'est pas là la diplomatie.
What happened inside, in the windows, has nothing to do with
C'est
diplomacy.
ce que vous voyez en superstructure lorsque les gens viennent en audience et sortent.
We are therefore inscribed in this logic to say things clearly to the people. Some will criticize us. Others will even say that a head of state should not speak like that. A head of state should not do that. But we tell them that maybe these people who criticize in this way when we speak the truth.
Dans cette logique de dire clairement les choses au peuple. Certains vont nous critiquer.
Maybe they have a school where they have learned how to be a head of state, how a head of state should be. Otherwise, I have not yet seen the school. Why do we necessarily have to do like others? We want to create our model, our identity. I think that Burkina Faso, by definition, is the whole man. We want the truth. And when the truth comes out, even if we have made a mistake, we must have the courage to come and tell you on which side we have made a mistake. We ask for forgiveness. If you forgive us, you forgive us. We no longer want to be inscribed in this false diplomacy. In an interview, when I spoke to you about the Ivorian regime, some Burkinabes climbed on their horses and criticized. I say it, I insist, and I persist. We have nothing against the Ivorian people, but we have something with those who rule the Ivory Coast. We say it, and we repeat it again. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. In Abidjan, there is a center of operations to destabilize our country. No one can deny it, and we will prove it to you in the coming days. We will show you physical evidence. You will understand what we are talking about. No one will come and tell us that in Benin, there is no French base directed against us. We have the evidence in our hands. 2 important bases. No one can deny it, and I challenge it. We have nothing against the Benin people. We have a problem with the policy of the Benin leaders. We say it again. We say it again. In this diplomacy, we have decided to tell the truth. There are 2 bases, one to Kandy and the other to Porga, or I don't know which locality. Tracks have been redeveloped to more than 3,000 meters long. Planes land. People train and train terrorists there. We have audio recordings of French agents in Benin who play the center of terrorist operations. They carry out operations with them. They help them heal. They do everything there. We have all the details about them. And you don't want us to tell our people? We will say it. If you don't want it, if they don't want it, let them stop behaving like this. It's simple. We have not forced anyone to take their independence. If you decide to stay in your situation, but don't take your countries to make bases there, because it is your populations who will suffer afterwards, and it is not a good policy. We say it by experience, and I always repeat it. Burkina Faso has been a base to destabilize some countries, and it is not good. Burkina Faso was a base for terrorists here. This is the price we pay to prevent the people of this country, who I speak of, to speak to their leaders and to stop this policy because it doesn't suit them at all. To come in the field of communication and culture, we have launched several initiatives. During the year 2024, you celebrated with us the month of local consumption. We had the traditional days, the month of heritage. Many activities have been carried out. We will continue to bring back our culture because this is where we find our identity. We will continue actions in this direction to enhance our culture, to enhance our customs, and to enhance the life of Burkina Faso. And we wish that everyone is an actor of the emergence of Burkina Faso through his way of communicating. Because everything is also in communication. You have recently followed the communication war that was waged against us, and it continues. It will not stop, and I wish that everyone who is in communication can be professional. When we want to make a communication act, we ask ourselves if it is for the country or against the country before making the act. No matter you may not love us, my person, you may not love me, but you must love your country.
Former President of Republic of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, once said,
"The one thing we will never allow anyone in the world to interfere with is our sovereignty."
And I want to appeal to all of you here that we should not accept the intimidation which is coming from the Western world to us as a country.
To manage our minerals correctly, so that they are not plundered by those from outside our region and continent.
Africa is a hub for natural resources. It has always been for the West. And now Africa has multiple options.
They should not allow another person to give them a prescription of how Africa should look like or what we need in our Africa, because we know what we need in our Africa.
€30 million
Yes.
that is going to release to the French diplomatic missions to kick off the implementation of this policy. But what is 40 million when you hear?
We no longer see our minerals going out of our countries as stones and sand.
That you're going to be blocked from going to America. Do I need to go to America?
The United States must understand that Africans are not going to take it anymore.
Right. I have no time for borders. Why? I have no time for colonialism. How do you say to me, go and change French on the passport, and then come at the same time and say,
It's a legitimate question because indeed there are many things that are going wrong which are not being attended to.
We are 54 independent countries in Africa continent. We have 54 seats in the UN Assembly. We have 54 flags which represent our sovereignty, which we are proud and jealous for. But in reality, are we really free? When we look at the countries that we sit with, countries from the West and from the North and Middle East, can we say that these countries, do they see us and treat us with that due respect? Do they treat us in equal ways? Do they see us the same? Do they treat us the same way that they're treating everyone? Which I doubt.
The failure of the African Union, because they are failing to do that, but even the countries in Africa should be making sure that they put Africa and Africa's agenda as a priority.
Europe with the West, they are planning to recolonize Africa. But how are they planning to recolonize Africa again? Of course, they are doing this with the simple method which they have put in place for some times now. It is by sending their military troops to all over Africa and build different military bases in Africa continent, all in order for them to control Africa even for more closer. The reason that they have to put in advance, it will be like, no, we are here to help you fight the terrorists. We are here to help you develop your countries. We are here to do 1, 2, 3, 4. The reasons which they never respect any of it. Instead, they are here in Africa to make sure that they continue to control Africans with their politics. These people, they have seen and consider Africa continent as their small market.
At the end of the day, it is critical for the U.S. to have a footprint on the continent. Even a little goes a long way. The same can be said of U.S. business investments. Africa is of vital strategic importance to the United States. We can't let China or Russia become the preferred security or business partner.
You see, they are even fighting against China and Russia, believing that these two countries, they have come to steal their market in Africa continent. In the reality, it is all us Africans who believe that we are independent.
The sense about us celebrating independence, I don't know why we celebrate independence, because we are not free. We are not given the free will to make decisions on our own mineral resources. There's always Big Brother who decides. And when you fight and say, no, we are not going to do this, they use the system to stop you.
These people, they had this plan of recolonizing Africa once again. They had put it in place for some times now. And one of the excuses that they always bring is to come and say that we are here to help you develop your beautiful continent. We are here to help you fight all the rebellions.